So consider yourself a PR specialist, and we're going to talk about how you can do that. And to do that, you need to develop a plan. And the first step is you got to sit down and create a timeline for the year. When is your budget talks beginning? When do you think you might want to announce your re-election bid if it's your re-election year? What other key dates are on your calendar? And that's a good way to begin to build your plan, and you can set your goals accordingly. For example, I noted here, if you know that in January that that's your big contentious county budget battle, you can plan ahead for that. You might want to sit down with the county beat reporter before that, and lay out, like maybe if you're board chairman, let's say, sit down with that beat reporter and lay out your priorities before the hearings begin. You might want to talk to the paper about having an op-ed in the paper before that, and so forth. So we just gotta think ahead of time. Now the other part of developing your plan is to develop your messages, and this can be for whether it's your re-election message or your official county business message. You need a headline message that you return to again and again in all these interviews. And you also can have secondary messages, and I'm going to talk in a minute a really good tool how to develop your messages. You also need to identify your audiences. Your audience could be your fellow board members. Your audience could be an anti-tax group out there. It could be that from be columnists at the paper. So you need to figure out who your audiences are and develop messages specific for them. All right, so here's a tool to develop a message. It's called the Tully Message Box. And I got this from this great resource. This is Media Relations Handbook for Agencies, Associations, Nonprofits, and Congress. And in here, they talk about this Tully Message Box. And it was developed in the early 90s around the Hillary Clinton healthcare debate. And it's very interesting. I think you can apply this tool to whether you're planning through your budget talks, your budget battle, whether you're planning through your re-election, whether you're trying to close the landfill. It's a big controversy. Try this tool. You sit down with you and your people around you, maybe you've got a press aide or your these people you trust or your little inner circle there. Figure out what we say about us. And I think we all do that already. You kind of have your things you say, but that's only one step. So determine what we say about us. You also need to determine what we say about our opponents, get all those messages down. Then what opponents say about themselves, what like the folks that want to keep the landfill open, let's say, what do they say about themselves, and what do your opponents say about us? And you figure all this out, and you're going to be in really good shape because you're going to be prepared. When the reporters come with their questions, when the reporter says, well, your opponent said this, how do you respond? Well, you've already thought about it because you've gone through this exercise. And what I've done is, there's a chapter in this book on creating a communications plan, and I photocopied this chapter, and it's going to be available in the materials for this workshop in the print-on-demand station. So this is in there, and it'll be available to you. And just as an example, let's say your goal is to pass the county budget with no tax increase. So what do we say about us? Well, we know taxpayers are tapped out. We have to do more with less. We will prioritize and make the tough cuts. That might be your public message. What we say about our opponents. Well, they're out of touch with the taxpayers. They aren't showing fiscal restraint. They haven't worked to prioritize budget items. What opponents say about themselves. Well, your opponents might say, well, we need to balance taxes and spending. We know the residents are hurting. We know our county is a last resort for services. That's all legitimate. And what opponents say about us, well, they think that we're insensitive to people's needs because we don't want to raise taxes. They're catering to the anti-tax government groups. They're placing politics over public service. So if you've figured out all these things you're going to be accused of and come up with messages to combat that, you're going to be way ahead of the game. You won't be caught off guard. That's the name of the workshop. Stay ahead of the story. So once you figured out your messages, identified your audiences, next is how are you going to get your messages out? Well, there's all kinds of tools available to you folks as county officials. And NACO has this media relations guide for counties that we put together, and it's basically a a how-to guide. It's how to write a press release, it's how to maintain a press list, how to write an op-ed, how to plan for an editorial board meeting. It's full of do's and don'ts of talking to a reporter, and that's what Brett's going to talk about in a few minutes, the specifics of, dealing one-on-one with a reporter in these tough times. So your basic communications tools, news releases, letters to the editor. And I think letters to the editor can be a very effective tool, especially in smaller markets. People really read their weekly papers and they read those letters. I'm not so sure in the bigger counties that people read the letters so much, but if you're in a smaller county, letters to the editor can be very effective, and they don't need to be from you necessarily. They can be from your supporters. And when I worked for the congressman during the campaigns, we used to write generic letters to the editor, and like one on environment, one on energy, one on transportation issues, and then we would give those out to the congressman's supporters, and they would craft a letter in their own personality and send it into the newspaper. And you can do the same thing. You can have your supporters writing letters on your behalf, and you can kind of help them with the message that you've already developed. Newsletters and direct mail, op-ed columns, pitching a story to a reporter, and I think that's still the best tool out there. You really need to know your media. You need to read all the newspapers, you need to listen to all the radio shows, watch all the TV programs, know what each reporter is interested in. So then when you do have a story that you feel is important, that needs to be covered, you can reach out to that reporter and pitch it to them at the appropriate time, and you'll know how to approach that reporter because you know their work. And I think that's really an effective way to get coverage. And like I said, you can't expect the media just to come to you anymore. There's some more advanced, and again, this book, I'm out of print copies of these, but it's going to be, you'll be able to get the PDF in the print-on-demand station when you go, so you can download it on your thumb drive or print it out yourself. I'm going to have new copies. I'm going to actually have to expand parts of this on the social media, so I didn't get them reprinted because I want to expand the social media part of this. So then in a few months we'll have a new version of this, but for now you'll be able to get it downloaded from the website or from the print-on-demand station here. All right, so some more advanced media tools. Press kits, that's like if you're having an editorial board meeting, you might want to have a whole press kit put together on county services and so forth. News conferences and events, editorial board meetings, speeches, email alerts, e-news, web pages, blogs, videos, social media, and we'll be able to, if you have specific questions about these things, we can talk about that in a little bit. All right. So my bottom line is that these are tough times, but it's tough times for not only for counties but for media as well. So you really got to be your own PR specialist. There's fewer opportunities out there. And I'm talking about media here. There's more opportunities for you in communications because of social media and other things, and that's part of your overall communications plan. I probably didn't mention it before. Media is one part of your communications plan. The rest of it can be social media. How many are on Facebook or Twitter right now? So that's good. So my other message to you is, don't get too frustrated with media coverage, the lack of it. Just keep pushing out your messages and your information, things that people need to know, but do it through the media, play ball with your media, but also do it through your social media so you're reaching your folks directly. Look at the White House. That communications office there, it's almost like the White House press corps is not even there to them. It's pretty remarkable. But I'm not suggesting you go around your media, play ball with your media, even if you don't think they're treating you fairly, play ball with your media, but use these other vehicles to get your message out.